You gotta love the NFL. Just 1 year ago, Patrick Mahomes was a guy who only had one NFL start in his career. Now, he's seemingly a lock for MVP. Meanwhile, arguably the best player on the defense he's going to be facing in this divisional round was a relative unknown outside of people that went to South Carolina State. While Patrick Mahomes seems to get all of the credit, what really makes this Chiefs offense work is the whole offense in general. And let me show you what I mean with this play. First things first, the beginning of this play is pretty simple. The four defensive backs will all be in the typical defensive back positioning. You're also going to see Kansas City fake a jet sweep to the bottom half of the screen. This is going to draw a linebacker towards the bottom half of the screen. Meanwhile, a typical run play on this position could be a run straight up the middle, meaning another Seattle linebacker has to be aware of that. However, neither of those are what they're actually going to be doing on this play. Instead, it's going to be a pitch to the top half of the screen. Now, both of Kansas City's receivers can block the edge, and they're going to send their left tackle up the lead block. Essentially, what the Chiefs are doing here is using fakes as blocks. That really makes things easy, because when you try to send offensive linemen up to block linebackers, it can lead to missed blocks. However, when you do something like this, there's much less blocks you have to make, and it makes for a much easier play to gain some yards. This next play is another perfect example. If it was a standard run, you'd expect it to be a rush to probably the left A or B gap. And the Chiefs are also going to have Tyreek Hill run to the top of the screen in another jet sweep type play. Because of the fact that it could be a run straight up the middle, a Seattle linebacker has to stay where he's at. That Seattle linebacker is Bobby Wagner, who might be the best in the game. So to take him out of play on a situation like this is crucial. When an opposing team has a great middle linebacker, finding ways to get around him is huge. And that's part of the reason why I'm showing this play, as of course, the Colts have Leonard, who's a really good player. Since it is going to be a jet sweep, all the Chiefs have to do is send their right tackle forward, and everyone else just has to make their blocks. Doing plays like this allows you to get runs for a big gain. As you see on this play, Bobby Wagner was actually the guy who brought Tyreek Hill down. So if there was never a threat of a standard handoff, Bobby Wagner most likely would have been able to get there much quicker. However, because of the good play design, Kansas City was able to pick up a decent amount of yards. And of course, that's not all it does. The main thing in today's NFL is being able to pass the football, and this style of offense greatly helps the Chiefs pass the football. There's several reasons why Patrick Mahomes was able to throw for 5,000 yards in just his first season as a starter. One of those reasons being that he's just really good, but another reason is because of plays like this. As you see, it's nothing too fancy by Seattle. It's a pretty standard cover 3 zone. This is the route concept that Kansas City's running, and if you look at it, there's not really going to be too much open. There could be a small window towards the end of Tyreek Hill's route. However, since it's the cover 3, Seattle's safety can easily move up to make a play. And even if he doesn't, there's linebackers in the area, and it would make for a very dangerous play for Mahomes to try to make. Typically, this play wouldn't really work too well in a cover 3. This play's really designed to be the cover 2, since there would be no safety directly in the area, and that window would be slightly more open. But as you see, Kansas City has a plan for that. It's play action. And look at how hard the Seahawks linebackers are going to bite in on this play. They fully believe that it's going to be a handoff, and by the time they realize it isn't, Tyreek Hill has a ton of space and he's wide open. It makes things too easy for the Chiefs, and they're able to pick up a big gain. Worth mentioning, Seattle has a great defense, and obviously Bobby Wagner is one of the best linebackers, if not the best linebacker in the game. And that's a large part of the reason why I decided to show plays when the Chiefs were playing Seattle, because I wanted to show what Patrick Mahomes can do against a good defense with a great middle linebacker. It's really easy to get beat on plays like that. In fact, here's a play of Leonard getting beat on a very similar play. Once again, it's a cover 3 zone, and once again, there would maybe be a very tight window for Blaine Gabbert to try to get this throw through. However, the Tennessee Titans are a team that very much likes to run the ball. So the Colts were expecting a run here. Take a look at the Colts' 3 linebackers here. They're all going to take several steps in. It's nothing major, but it's enough to make that window much bigger. Now granted, Blaine Gabbert missed the throw because that's kind of his thing. However, if it was a better quarterback like say Patrick Mahomes, there's no chance he's missing that throw and it's going to be a first down. While Leonard and the other 2 Colts linebackers didn't do a great job on that play, I do feel like as a whole, Leonard does do a very good job of seeing the game and understanding what's going on. This play is another really good example of what I'm talking about. This is the route concept that the Titans are going to be running. However, the Colts don't know that it's a pass at the time. As you see, Tennessee's in a single back formation, which means that Gabbert is right behind the center, they have a tight end in the game, and Derrick Henry is pretty far back. This is the formation that the Titans love to run out of, so it's reasonable to expect a run here. However, look at Leonard on this play. He's communicating to his team and pointing at Gabbert to let his team know that this isn't going to be a running play. He reads that Gabbert is already looking downfield and isn't in a position to hand a ball off, and knows that they're going to be passing instead. Now, I don't know if that would have changed anything, as Gabbert ends up throwing a quick out route to the top half of the screen anyways. However, I thought it was interesting and worth showing that Leonard does make very good reads. And making good reads is so much of the battle for this Colts defense. If they know whether a team is going to be passing or running, they can almost always shut a team down. This play is a perfect example. It was late in the game and Tennessee was in desperation mode where they basically had to be throwing constantly. The Colts are in a cover 4 zone, and this is the route concept that Tennessee is going to be running. Gabbert thinks he has a man, and so he's going to be throwing in that direction. However, Leonard reads this play so well, he's able to sprint forward and pick the ball off. He's a really talented player, and if you pair that on top with him knowing what plays the other team is running, it can be very bad news. One of the things I think it's important for young linebackers to know is that it's better to get beat in front of you than to get beat behind you. You would much rather think it's a passing play and then have to come up to try to make a tackle than you would think it's a running play and have the other team throw over you for a big gain. This play is a good example of what I'm talking about. Here you're going to see Dallas double team the Colts defensive tackle on the top half of the screen, and you're also going to see the Cowboys right guard Connor Williams lay an absolutely perfect block. Also, as you see, no Colts linebacker moved up to try to clog up any holes. Now all Dallas has to do is each make one of their blocks, and this could be a big run. However, that's not so easy to do, especially with Clayton Geathers, as he has a pretty clear route to get to a halfback. As you see, he's able to make contact with Elliott, and while Elliott does a great job of continuing to run forward, eventually Leonard's able to come over and get into play, and Elliott is stopped. This play ends up going for 4 yards, which typically you would say is a pretty decent run play. It's nothing amazing, but you'll take that most of the time. However, I think it's worth mentioning what had to happen for that to get to 4 yards. First, Dallas had to successfully double team a Colts defensive tackle. Then they had to have a guard completely own another defensive tackle. And also, Ezekiel Elliott did a great job of getting yards after contact and got a couple more after the fact. More often than not, none of those things are going to happen, and it's still not going to be a big gain. Granted, there is the risk that if each linebacker gets taken out of the play, and I know there's actually only 2 linebackers and 1 safety on this play, but they're all in the box, so I'm using the term linebacker loosely here. But the chances of all 3 of them getting blocked despite having good positioning is very rare. The chances are someone's going to get free and tackle Elliott. It might go for 4 yards, and it could even go for 7 yards or 10 yards. But there's still a much greater chance of something bad happening if you go forward and end up getting beat with a throw over the top. So that's the key to success, right? That's all you have to do. Just be patient as a linebacker, let the other team come to you, and make some plays on Patrick Mahomes. Well, not exactly. There's one problem with that, and it's that Patrick Mahomes is really good. As you see here, the Rams are running a cover 2 man, which is one of the most difficult plays to try to throw on. Los Angeles does a really good job. Pretty much everyone is in the area to guard a chief, and Patrick Mahomes has nowhere to go. However, despite that, Patrick Mahomes is able to move up in the pocket, throws the ball off balance, and it ends up being a strike for a touchdown. That's the problem with the Chiefs. They can beat you with scheme, but even if none of that works, they can also beat you with talent. It's impossible to have a perfect game. However, if Darius Leonard and the rest of this Colts defense make good reads and limit the Chiefs offense to as much as possible, it could be huge in them slowing Patrick Mahomes down. The history of the NFL shows that quarterbacks playing in their first playoff game tend to not do too great. However, the history of the NFL also shows that quarterbacks playing in their first season as a starter tend to not throw for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. So I wouldn't really expect Patrick Mahomes to buckle under the lights in this game. Mahomes and Leonard are 2 of the NFL's brightest young stars, and it should be a lot of fun watching them play each other.